Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a quick review for you of what is actually the knife slash multi-tool that I think's been in my possession longest. I think I've had this guy for maybe 15, possibly even 20 years. And so, it's not something I carry very often, but I found it recently and I figured, you know what? What the heck? Let me put out a review. And actually, they're still making these guys. They got a couple of revisions, and I'll talk about that here and there, but it's still the same old thing. So, if you're interested, you can still pick one up. So let's go ahead and first do a quick tool overview. You got a toothpick here. You've got a set of tweezers right here, although they're lost to the sands of time, alas. Over here, you have a flathead screwdriver, as well as a can opener, and this thing is kind of a sharp sort of thing, which is meant to, I think, puncture a can, something like that. And it's also a reasonably competent poking tool sort of thing. Here you got yourself a magnifying glass. Let's see if it works. Indeed, that's magnifying that penny. And you got yourself a compass, and just for reference, all throughout this review, that direction is due east. So you'll see that it kind of goes in and out of compassness. And then finally, you got yourself a knife with a random hole in it. So let's just go on ahead and go into the good, the bad, and the ugly of your Tool Logic, the Credit Card Companion. So the good here is the form factor, because it's an interesting and it's a different thing. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's trying to replace your kind of standard Swiss Army knife. And it's got some of the same tools. It's got your toothpick, it's got your tweezers, it's got your bottle opener type of thing, and it's got a knife on there. And it's supposed to add a couple of other things in there, but it's much easier to just stick someplace form factor, especially than your larger Swiss Army knives. This little guy you can just toss anywhere, but any of your bigger ones take up a little more space. So that's the good thing, basically, is that it puts a fair amount of tool in a relatively small amount of space here. Oh, and there's a ruler on the back. I forgot about that. But anyways, so I really hate to say it, and I mean the knife does cut things. That's good, and it's got some serrations, which I don't tend to advocate for serrations, but in a situation like this, it's nice because even when the rest of the knife, namely this portion here, goes dull, the serrations are still going to be sharp, so that's generally a good thing. So yeah, and then it's got these nice little things that remind you what goes where, but that's not really a major concern. And it's got a lanyard hole. As you can tell, I'm kind of pushing here to find something really excellent. Yeah. I think I'm at a good. All right, let's move on to the bad. Couple of bad things here. First and foremost, the compass is erratic at best. As you can see here, that there is actually quite literally nothing going on. This table is plastic. The nearest metal object is a caliper, which is over here. And, even still, it's not accurately telling me what the direction is. And if I turn it around, it's kind of self-adjusting, I guess. But, this compass is simply not to be trusted. The magnifying glass works just fine, although it's a little bit awkward because it tends to block the light from whatever you're trying to magnify. This little tool is okay, but it's very, very easy as you're trying to use the screwdriver to dig this tip into whatever it is you're screwing on. And that's just no good, because this is actually reasonably sharp, and it can put a decent scratch in something that you're putting a screw into. And so that was kind of a poor idea. The bottle opener works fine, I guess, but every time you use it, it dulls this little guy a little bit, which is, again, just a little bit of a tool issue. They should have thought to design that a little better. The knife is serrated throughout, which I just called the kind of a good thing, because it's not going to get dull as quickly. But it's also kind of a bad thing because it doesn't make the same kinds of clean cuts that you really want in an EDC folder. And the serrations aren't really terribly deep either. And so that's not that great. And then finally, the other bad thing here that's not ugly is that the tools are fairly easy to lose because they just kind of pop in and out. I mean, if you've actually got this in your wallet or something, they're not going anywhere, but it's very, very easy to, completely lose track of the knife, whereas that's not the case in a multi-tool where the knife is attached. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind, and that's true of any of these credit card type things. So that's something to keep in mind. There's your bad. Let's just go into the ugly here. Okay, two really ugly things. First is the blade steel. The steel on this blade is just stainless. That's as detailed as they get, I believe, even for the new one. And what that means is that it's just bad. And it really, really is. It's very soft, and it doesn't really take a very good edge. So I've just got a piece of envelope paper here, And I'm going to try, and I did actually attempt to put an edge on this. I didn't try to do the full mirror edge, and I wasn't going to try and sharpen out the serrations, but I did do my best to kind of get everything back up to spec. And it's just tearing here. I mean, I can kind of make a cut. And with the serrations, you can do a little bit better because you're really ripping at the paper. But it's just no good. And I can, with a good steel, like this is your Slish Bowie here, I can make a very nice edge. That's not my problem here. It's just that the steel is really sucky. And that's just no good. Because it's a knife that's never going to be a sharp knife. And if you've got a knife with you, you just want it to be sharp, because a sharp knife is a useful knife. So that's one thing. The other issue with this is the thickness. They call this the credit card companion, and it is true that it is about the size of a credit card or a business card. And I'm not going to put a credit card on screen here because identity thieves have a good enough time of it already. But thickness-wise, it is actual credit card is about this thick, and the credit card companion is about that thick. So it is big, or at least beefy. This is my wallet. It is currently empty because, again, sorry, identity thieves, but you can actually fit this into a wallet so long as you don't really have anything else in it. I mean, this is pretty ridiculous. It's probably the thickness of 3 or 4 credit cards as is. So if you're already carrying, to make the Seinfeld reference, a Costanza wallet, you're going to be okay. But this is really not something you want to just toss in the wallet and forget about it. It's real, oh man, I'll just, for the size of a credit card, I'll have a knife and a... But unfortunately, it's thicker than that. And so that's kind of the other ugly thing, is that it's not really credit card sized, except in the academic sense. So what's the final verdict here? The final verdict, honestly, is just no. Because if you want something that does this, you're best served to just use your wallet for, cards and whatnot, and to throw like a Swiss Army knife in your pocket. Because the Swiss Army knife, guaranteed, will have a better blade on it that you can actually maintain in a reasonable way. You will get tweezers, you will get a toothpick, you will get a can opener with a larger size Swiss Army knife, and you'll get a little screwdriver kind of thing. And you won't get the magnifying glass unless you go to certain models, but nonetheless, you will end up with a wallet that you do not hate because it is not heavy and, well, really, really absurdly thick, and you'll end up with a more functional tool anyways. So this is a fun idea. This is something that appealed a great deal to young Nick, because it's like, oh my god, it's all there. But alas, I just don't see it. So this is going to be a no-go, and instead of a gem, I'm going to go ahead and call this one junk. But for nostalgia's sake, it sticks around. And yeah, there you go. So I hope this was at least slightly interesting to you, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day.